The aesthetic that drew you in? Do you feel like it was a good fit for you?
Yes, I do feel that it was a good fit for me. The Tunnels has a rotating editing team, which I think is really cool because I know some of the editors often, but the Tunnels can be academic but still interested in like doing different things with that, and I think a lot of that to me is probably Aaron's influence on the Tunnels, but the Tunnels has just published some very strange things, and that really appealed to me because so much of the writing I see elsewhere can be so... it can feel so perfectly crafted, and like especially the poetry shut in, and like every single word feels perfect, and you can tell this is someone who's been writing for 20 odd years and they spent like probably 20 hours on this poem just perfectly crafting it, and that's not where I'm at, but I also think that my work is good enough to be sent out. And I think the Tunnels has poems like that are like densely crafted like that too, but it did feel like for me I could send them something that was more in the heat of a moment emotionally, that isn't perfect but is true to itself, and that the Tunnels appreciates that sort of standard.
Do you see yourself having future experiences with the Tunnels?
Yes, I would love to join their editing team, having interacted with them in the future of my college career, because the Tunnels does a lot of interesting academic nonfiction because it's interested in a lot of pop culture and a lot of just very strange topics that you wouldn't find anywhere else academically. One of my favorite issues in the Tunnels is, I believe, I want to say it was the very first issue. There's an essay about Luigi's Mansion, the GameCube game, and how tied in it is with topics of like economics and masculinity and all these sorts of things. And I was like, this is a game I played as a kid when I was like 8, and how I didn't realize that you could even write academic papers about GameCube games of Nintendo characters, and that's really, really cool to me.
Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Karen Renner and Professor Aaron Stalcup to talk about their experience with making and managing the Tunnels magazine.
Alright. So, to any new readers, how would you explain the magazine, The Tunnels, and its mission?
You want to go first?
Sure. The Tunnels is an undergraduate creative and critical journal here at NAU, and that means that we publish academic essays analyzing literature, pop culture, film, video games, and we also publish creative work, so fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, written by NAU undergrads or people who are alums that graduated 3 years or under. And the mission is to showcase the really excellent work that our undergrads do here. Renner mostly teaches academic, and I mostly teach creative writing, and we just are really impressed with how our students can do both, and we wanted to showcase them doing that.
Mm-hmm. And I would just add with the name, we actually can't take credit for the name. Jesse Senzabar helped us come up with the name, but we came up with the name The Tunnels because of the idea, which is part myth, I think, but part fact, that there are tunnels that connect NAU to the downtown area. So we thought that also was part of our mission, is getting students more connected to the community, and the community more connected to our writers, our undergraduate writers.
Our students who run the magazine in the editing and publishing class write blogs, and a lot of them just write blogs about Flagstaff, so that even people reading the magazine who aren't here will learn about our community and some of the cool things about it.
Yeah.
Alright, that answers the second question. What was your inspiration for the magazine?
Well, there's also, I guess, the story about why we did the magazine anyway. We had started to work on an undergraduate journal here that was called, unfortunately, JURS. I think I advocated at one point for JUICE, because I think that was a little bit...
A better acronym.
Yeah.
It's the Journal of Undergraduate Research and Creative Expression. Just an unwieldy title all around.
Yeah, so we were working on it, and I don't think we knew each other at the time, but we had both come in. I was working as the humanities editor, and Stalcup was working as the creative writing editor, and then we realized that we were the ones who were most invested in the journal, and so we decided, why don't we, do this for our own students, and instead of doing it for across the department, why don't we focus on our own students first?
And that magazine would have published science articles and things that we are hoping to draw into the tunnels, but we decided to start with mostly just English essays, and then kind of hopefully reach throughout the whole campus and bring everyone in.
Yeah, and we also realized, I guess at some point, it was very focused on the faculty running it. And we thought, what a great experience if we turned it over to the students to run it, so that they could also get the experience in the editing and publishing side of it.
Absolutely.
So, what are your roles on the magazine staff?
Technically, we're editors-in-chief. What we mostly do, so conventionally an editor-in-chief would make all the final decisions for a magazine, and so the staff would have opinions about what to publish, but it would have to go up the chain of command to the editors-in-chief, but we don't actually operate that way. We mostly just run a class with students running the magazine, and we just sort of guide them through that process, and then hopefully talk about other opportunities to work in the field of editing and publishing.
Yeah, and I guess the first part that we did, we had an intern, Emily, who did research on academic journals so that we could figure out the design. And so we designed, and I guess the first 2 issues, right, we did by ourselves. So we took it through the first 2 issues and then turned it over into a class.
Right.
So we have some, I guess, input into the design of the website as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what do you two love best about working on the magazine?
Where to start? What do we do?
When we publish an issue, I can honestly say that a lot of the work I would have said yes to in my international magazine that I run, Waxwing. Just the quality of student work at this institution is so impressive, and so just finally seeing that and getting to show that to people, I think is my favorite part. I mean, I love the whole process of getting ready to publish an issue, but just I'm so proud of the work. I say this all the time, the undergrads here are so much smarter than I was as an undergrad. They're so much more hardworking.
Yeah.
They have much better senses of humor. Like, they're just hilarious and smart, and I love celebrating that.
Yeah, and I think for me it was watching students take an interest in their work after the class was over.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I mean, just this week I met with a student who was so excited about working on the paper for the tunnels, and so it gave it a life, I think, beyond that classroom,
Yeah.
which I really enjoy. I also love working, I've just sort of recently expanded so that I can learn more about design, and I'm really interested in seeing the other side of students. I don't often get to see the other talents that they have in terms of design or event planning or outreach, and so it's nice to see all of those talents come out as well.
Yeah. And it's been great. It was ours. We had volunteer students who helped, but it was really ours, and now it's becoming yours. It's becoming the students, and watching that transition, watching people take ownership of it and really get invested in it.
Yeah.
So all of it. We love all of it.
Yes, it's true.
How do you feel the tunnels prepare students for life in writing and publishing, and both working on staff and as submitters?
Good question.
So I know that from my perspective, when I worked on an academic journal, that's when I first started to understand the mistakes I had made and things that I could do better. And so one thing how was the question worded?
How do you feel the tunnels prepare students
Prepare
for a
students.
life of writing and publishing?
So I think if you're on the other side of it and you're reviewing work and you get to see how a cover letter affects you as an editor, how working with an author, you can see sort of things in the writing that could be improved. I think that forces you to be a little bit more self-aware about your own
Absolutely.
your own writing, but also your own submission process. And so I think that is probably what I think is the most valuable thing that students
I
gain.
completely agree. We both do peer review in our creative and academic classes, so students know what it's like to talk about a work in progress, but I think it's a totally different, not totally different, it's an extension of that when you're getting something and you're deciding, is this done or not? Is this ready to publish or not? And so the first time I ever worked on a magazine was in grad school, and it really made me realize I need to tighten my stories. They're too floppy. As an editor, I don't want to read a floppy story. I only want to read something really tight. That first sentence matters. That first paragraph